Hey yo, what up, Tombs? Unless you've been living under a turtle, you already know what it is. Wuthering Waves Cyberpunk Edgerunners collab is still in full effect, and while the characters are fleeting, you better get their ass now. The story is here to stay. Now, I don't know how much of Lucy's backstory will actually be revealed over time in her character profile, but it still looks like bits and pieces might continue to remain unknown. And throughout the story, the words hacking, Netrunner, and her initial cold, cautious approach to Rover has a reason. So I thought it'd be pretty fun to dive into her backstory and learn a little bit more about Lucy Kushinada. And I think by the end of this, even those who have watched the show from start to finish might find a thing or two they didn't know before. So without further ado, let's get it. Now, before we dive into her backstory, this term we hear all the time, Netrunner. What is it? We need to explain that first. So it's basically a person who can interface with the internet or cyberspace. Now, most people in the cyberpunk world can interact with the net in some capacity, but netrunners take this to a whole nother level. They can interact with it by mentally transporting themselves there as if it were a physical place. They're able to run commands like locate, run, application, delete, create, retrieve files, and all types of things. They're essentially hackers who jack into the web like the Matrix, complete with a port on the back of their heads. While deep diving into the net, netrunners typically wear a special suit to cool their bodies during the run. But in the absence of such, a tub of ice will also do the trick. Cracking codes, breaking into systems is mere child's play to a netrunner. They live for that kind of stuff. And with so much of the cyberpunk populace being interconnected with cyberware, netrunners like Lucy can also hack into people's cyberware and their brains to retrieve secrets. And we saw this in the series when she hacked into Tanaka's mind and found the plans Arasaka had for David. In the game, we see Lucy's Netrunner port exposed, but she usually keeps it covered. And we'll talk about why that is in a little bit. But now that we have the basic gist of what a Netrunner is, let's go ahead and talk more about Lucy's backstory. Lucy Kushinada is half Japanese, half Polish. Lucy's father was a man named Takeshi Kushinada. He was a Japanese 4th Corporate War veteran. Her mother, Shimmer, a Polish netrunner, who like most netrunners was deep into some type of clandestine work. Shimmer was a part of a Polish netrunner gang called Squadron 404. So at this time, her father had been assigned by Arasaka to Warsaw, Poland. One thing led to another. The two met and they hit it off. Shimmer decided to leave her clandestine work behind, and then Lucy was born. Lucy grew up pretty much in a luxury-like environment. I mean, spacious villas, the best education, a gated community. Wait, let me rephrase that to be a bit more specific. A gated Arasaka community. And that fact will become a little bit more relevant as we continue on. So, Lucy definitely took after her mother. By the time she was 7, she was already hacking into all sorts of things. Lucy loved her father Takeshi. She always viewed him as a loving and honorable person. But when she hacked into his computer, she learned about all his actions during the war, and she was shook. And this would change her whole perspective, and it would lead to her building a habit of rebelling and running away from home. Additionally, she'd start spending more and more time on the net. She'd naturally take towards net running, and this didn't go unnoticed by her father. Takeshi forced Lucy to take all kinds of tests and evaluate her abilities. And mind you, all these tests were done at the Arasaka facilities. And if you know anything about Arasaka, you know that they're an entire megacorp that specializes in finding ways to be evil. And this circumstance was no exception. These evaluations would lead to Lucy being assigned with 12 other children to Arasaka's net running training program in some hidden undisclosed location. After their training was finished, all the kids were moved to an underground facility where they began on Arasaka's true plans for them. These kids were made to suit up and participate in net running deep dives into the post-data crash net. You see, Due to a series of some pretty crazy events, the majority of the net have been blocked off due to viruses, old world daemons, and rogue AIs, making it a very dangerous place. Most people don't venture beyond the black wall that seals off the most dangerous portions of the net. However, this is exactly where Arasaka had these kids net running and performing all types of missions for them. The children were picked off one by one. Eventually, only a handful were left. Realizing their fate if they continued to comply, the kids decided to take action and escape. Using the very same skills and techniques Arasaka trained and drilled into them, the remaining children did manage to escape. However, that doesn't mean they survived. Each one of the kids were gunned down, all with the exception of Lucy. From that day on, Lucy had to stay on her pivot, head on a swivel, and always looking over her shoulder, and with plenty of reason to do so. She never returned home for fear of what her father might do, and her mother rejoined Squad 404 to track her down. But unsure of her mother's motives, Lucy didn't take any chances and she stayed on the move. From various places across Europe to the new United States of America, she continued going, and somewhere in her gut, she felt that it'd never be safe to settle down. Eventually, she'd end up in Night City, but she always felt the safest place she could be was the farthest place she could go, Luna, aka the moon. While in Night City, Lucy began doing petty thefts and the occasional robbery until she met Kiwi. Kiwi mentored Lucy and introduced her into Main's crew, and this was about a year before the Cyberpunk Edgerunners story takes place. During the Edgerunners story, David asks Lucy why she covers her Netrunner deep dive port. Well, knowing how she was on the run for most of her life, and the fact that a frequent Arasaka fixer had seen her multiple times but still couldn't connect the dots to her being a part of Arasaka's child operative program, is a testament to the fact that she was doing something right in terms of guarding her identity. And she would have likely continued to be able to operate under Arasaka's radar had she not been protecting David. By the end of the story, Lucy was corrupting data and taking down opposing Netrunners trying to get to David, and her precision was a little bit too good to be just anybody off the street, and this didn't go unnoticed by Faraday or Arasaka. Of course, she'd eventually be captured by Faraday, and while it remains unclear if he or Arasaka actually realized who she is, I'd like to think they didn't, because of how the story plays out, but if they do continue her story in season 2, this could be a plot point. But anyways, folks, that's Lucy's backstory. Let me know if there were any facts you didn't know before. By the way, did you get the character? And if so, how many sequence nodes did you get? Let me know all this in the comments down below. That is all I have for you guys today, and until next time, waves.